Hello to all my Bi-Conics Wrestling Podcast fanatics all over the YouTubes and internets, and welcome to another edition of the Beat the Clock TV review for this week's AEW Collision. As you can see, I am not your normal host for Collision. Um, Adolfo is currently out on vacation with him and his family, so therefore him and his wife Alice will not be covering Collision this week. But I'm so excited to step in to review AEW Collision this week because, man, this was a good one. And fun fact, I've been wanting to review Collision for quite some time with Adolfo. It's just schedules haven't been able to work out for a little bit. But I'm happy to finally be able to talk about Collision and give my thoughts on the product overall as well as this week. So without further ado, let's just jump straight in. It's really weird to say that at this point, Collision is about a month old now, so we've had a couple episodes so far. And for me personally, it's really weird that for for me, I think Collision is so far has been really solid for every single episode. We've had some stellar classic matches already within the short span of Collision being on air, and it just feels fresh and it feels different. I don't know if Tony has somebody else booking for Collision or writing or whatever, but it just feels fresh. And Collision right now has some of my favorite storylines going through the AEW product. So I am super excited with how Collision is doing, and I've been enjoying myself so far. And tonight's episode is no different. So let's just jump straight into tonight's episode. We opened Collision this week with a ladders match between Buddy Matthews and Andrade El Idolo. And this is a ladder match for Andrade's match. The story going into the last couple of weeks is that Andrade has been in a feud with the House of Black because his mask was stolen. And so he's been doing everything he can to try to get it back. And so this is the culmination of this portion of the storyline in which the mask is up for grabs in a ladder match, and my God, did Buddy and Andrade kill it. I think some of my favorite spots include when there was one part where Andrade was ready to do like a kick to Buddy Matthews, but it was like a pump fake kick, and then just elbowed him into the face, which caused Matthews to drop on the ladder. Obviously, Buddy getting thrown off the top of the ladder was great. But I think my favorite spot also as well is when Julia Hart was climbing on the back of Andrade, got to the top of the ladder, and Andrade pushed her off where Buddy caught her. They both went through the table below. You know, I've seen some people online talk about how Julia spot like didn't make it believable, but I'm like she's a young girl. This is her first like off the ladder spot. And honestly, working with House of Black, I think, has been the best thing for Julia because specifically Brody King has become like her on the road dad, and House of Black takes really good care of her and making sure that she's safe and that she's comfortable. And that's why House of Black, I not only love them as a faction, but I love them as people as well. But as stated before, after Julia gets pushed off and Buddy catches them and they both go to the table below, Andrade retrieves the mask and is the winner of this match. I thought this was a really fun way to start off Collision this week, and they had some great moments. And then that momentum just kept going throughout the episode, as I'm going to continue to refer to as we go on. But after this match, we then get what was supposed to be a backstage interview with Miro, but then all of a sudden, Aaron Solo of QTV comes in with the chair and attacks Miro, but Miro ends up fighting back and beating down Aaron Solo. I have said it on other reviews that QTV is not my favorite thing right now going on in AEW. And the fact that Miro is now finding himself involved and entrenched into this storyline with QTV doesn't bode any confidence for me. I think Miro should be nowhere near QTV, but I will be okay with it if we don't drag this out for too long. So it seems that Miro is going to be fighting Aaron at some point, and then probably the rest of QTV as well. I just hope that Miro doesn't get stuck in this vortex. I think he should be involved in, not in a prominent storyline, then let him go straight after like the TNT championship or something. Because Miro's time is being wasted with the QTV as a faction. Yeah, I said it. QT Marshall's a great hand to have, and he is such a good worker, but his whole little faction and the QTV just universe is not my cup of tea. And I just hope that Miro doesn't get stuck in that vortex for too long. Next, we have another match. This time it is an open challenge. Darby Allin stated at the beginning of Collision as it began to air that he doesn't care who it is, but he will fight who accepts his open challenge in the ring. So Darby makes his entrance, he's in the ring, and who should answer his open challenge but Murder Grandpa himself, Minoru Suzuki. I was so happy to see Minoru Suzuki back on my television screen. As they mentioned on commentary, the last time we saw Darby and Minoru kind of mix it up a little bit was at Forbidden Door back in June when they were part of that 6-man tag match. But now they have a chance to go one-on-one. And my God, was this such a fun match. Darby's urgency in this match was definitely shown as he knows what Minoru is capable of. And Minoru Suzuki be the staple of New Japan Pro Wrestling with lots of with lots of holds and trying to choke Darby out every chance he got. And then, of course, the Suzuki chops. This was a fun match. I was quite surprised that the ending, though, they came really quickly because as Darby goes up to the top rope to try to do a coffin drop, Minoru Suzuki catches him in a chokehold, but Darby reverses himself to kind of reverse bridge himself, and then pin Minoru for the win. After the match, Minoru goes for a chair, but the ref is not having it. And so Minoru Suzuki just leaves the chair and then leaves. And as Darby's recovering in the ring, knowing full well he barely was able to beat Minoru Suzuki, on the Titantron, we see Christian Cage, who basically mocks Darby and says that he's being distracted lately, and if he's not careful, he's not going to win this championship, yada, yada, yada. Just Christian Cage being a total bro Chad heel, and I'm here for it. It's really interesting because Darby finds himself in two different storylines. Everybody is betraying him, so he's dealing with Swerve and AR Fox and Mogul Embassy right now, and Sting getting hurt in that match that he had a couple weeks ago too. But he's also trying to focus on this TNT championship as Darby has earned that right to face for the TNT championship at All Out in September. So I really enjoy the storyline. I love seeing Darby Allin. I do wish that he would slow down a little bit because I'm afraid that he's going to be retiring pretty soon at the breakneck speed and craziness that he has been doing the last couple of weeks and months. But ultimately, I enjoyed the match. I like that we're progressing the storyline, this feud between him and Christian Cage for the TNT Championship, and I'm interested to see where the rest of this goes. Next, we get a quick promo from Toni Storm in a video package as she's hyping up Hikaru Shida and that she's going to beat her at Dynamite and retain the AEW's Women's Championship. So I will say I do appreciate them building to the match on Wednesday because after Rampage, like commentary had to reaffirm that Hikaru would now face Toni for the women's title. And I hate when championship matches are not built correctly. And while this is being built with a loose strand of thread, I will take it. And I'm still excited to see Toni versus Hikaru. I hope they are given time. And I know it's going to be good. I trust both women. So hopefully it is. Next, we get not even a squash match. This is like a short, quick match between Samoa Joe and Gravity. So I said this previously earlier the week on the Rampage review, but I personally like it when you try to keep Ring of Honor talent and AEW talent separate. But you know what? This one made sense to me and it was okay because it was not for a championship match. And technically, these two are involved in a storyline over at Ring of Honor, with Samoa Joe being the Ring of Honor television champion, and then Gravity, who won his first round match and is still in the tournament for the Ring of Honor Television Championship Eliminator Tournament. So having them go at it was fun. I I get a pop every time Samoa Joe does the no sell where he walks away when somebody does the moves and just lets them fall flat on their face on the mat. It is one of my favorite parts. Obviously, Samoa Joe gets the win over Gravity here, but it still made Gravity look strong and it still made Gravity look like a contender. If you go check out the Ring of Honor review, me and JBL talked about this tournament. And while I love Gravity, our hope is that Shane Taylor wins the tournament to face Samoa Joe because that'd be a lot of fun. But ultimately, this match serves its purpose, and then I was entertained for the few minutes that we got. The next thing to kind of close out hour one of Collision this week, we got an in-ring promo. Tony Schiavone is there and then has CM Punk come down. CM Punk gives a passionate promo about how there's a lot of things to talk about on Collision right now. And basically what this leads to is that Punk basically takes the AEW championship out of the red bag and says that he is the undefeated champion. That is the belt that he has carried, that when he beat Jon Moxley for the title last year at All Out, and that he has never lost. He's never been pinned for it. So he is the true, real champion of AEW, which I don't know if we're going to play that into MJF, but, we'll get to MJF in a little bit because I think he's going to be involved in something different right now. But Punk stakes his claim that he is the real champion of AEW, which prompts Ricky Starks to come out, and probably one of the most hilarious things ever. He comes out and says, hang on, I'm going to do a real entrance for y'all. Pretend y'all didn't see me, and then goes back to the back and then comes out when his music hits like he was entering and interrupting for the first time. That's freaking hilarious. Ricky comes down to the ring and he says that since he's beaten Punk twice, that he deserves a title shot. Ricky and Punk go back and forth and trade some jabs. And eventually we get Punk versus Starks for the real championship set for next week. So there's going to be a championship match with special guest referee Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. I always love seeing Ricky the Dragon Steamboat anytime on my television screen. I know he's still wrestling and sometimes. A cup earlier in the year, he had a six-man tag where he teamed up with FTR. That was a lot of fun as well. I don't know what's going to happen with this match. On the one hand, I would love to see Ricky continue to pin CM Punk and just for Punk to slowly start losing his mind and getting upset of how much he's losing. But with the championship on the line, I think Punk is going to get one up on Ricky. But I hope that this feud between these two doesn't go away anytime soon, because I think Ricky is coming into his own as kind of like a semi-heel. And I love that finally he's getting a push, because Ricky has been here since the inception of AEW. And he's become one of my personal standout favorites. So I hope that they continue to push him, and I'm excited to see this match next week. We begin hour two of Collision with Bullet Club Gold, which this week is represented by Rock Hard Juice Robinson and the Guns, taking on Darius Martin, Action Andretti, and El Hijo. Y'all, when I tell you, anytime El Hijo is involved on my television screen, I know I'm going to have a good time. I am of my co-host's mind, Adolfo, where anytime you give me luchador flippy dippy stuff, I will always be entertained. I don't care what it is. I always have a great time with it. Bullet Club Gold is slowly becoming one of my favorite heel factions on AEW right now. And I think just because of the fact you have Rock Hard Juice Robinson, the Guns, and then I have to mention, I was laughing my ass off when the Bullet Club Gold brought out a cardboard cutout of Jay White. I was laughing so hard. I love that Bullet Club Gold is like trolly enough but still being taken seriously as heels. I love it. It is so good. But ultimately, Bullet Club Gold picks up the win. Rock Hard Juice Robinson pins Darius Martin and pick up the win. I love seeing Bullet Club Gold being still booked strong despite Jay and Juice losing to FTR a couple weeks ago for the AEW Tag Team Championship match. But I hope we continue to see Bullet Club Gold pick up some wins, and I'm interested to see where Collision takes them. We got our only women's match this week, but my God, was this a fun one. We saw Kiera Hogan, which I thought she was exclusively a Ring of Honor, but anytime I get to see Kiera on my screen, I am happy. So Kiera Hogan takes on making her AEW Collision debut, Mercedes Martinez. I'm so happy to see Mercedes back on my television screen. It has been far too long. I love Mercedes. I think she's an amazing talent. This was a nice, like 7 to 8 minute bout. Kiera got some offense in, but ultimately Mercedes Martinez picks up the win by making Kiera Hogan tap out. But then what happened after this match makes me even more excited because it seems that we have solidified who our like main women of Collision are going to be. So after the match is over, Kiera taps out. Mercedes holds onto Kiera in the submission hold, even after the bell rings to make a statement. And then out comes your TBS champion, Chris Statlander, as she comes in to try to get the save for Kiera, but Mercedes ends up taking the title from Chris and decking her in the face with it. And as Mercedes is ready to beat up Chris, Willow Nightingale comes down to the ring and scares Mercedes off as she retreats. So honestly, if Kiera, Mercedes, Chris, and Willow are going to be like, I guess, the main women for a little bit for Collision, I have no problem against it. I thought this was a fun match. And across all of the AEW programming this week, I think this was the best women's match for AEW this week. I still want more women's matches and storylines and promos to be put on television. But this match, as short as it was, made up for the disappointment that was Rampage main event. And then obviously the match that was kind of hard to watch on Dynamite this week. So Mercedes and Kiera, good job, ladies. You killed it. And then Willow and Chris, I hope to see you more on Collision. I hope these 4 women stick around because I love all 4 of them. And I think you have something special if you're able to create storylines with these 4 women in there. We then have our main event, which took up the last 30 minutes or so of Collision this week. Your main event this week is a match for the AEW Tag Team Championships. You have champions FTR defending their titles against the winners of the Blind Tag Team Eliminator Tournament. Better Than You, baby. The team of Adam Cole and AEW champion MJF. So I want to start off by saying we're going to start with entrances. Man, I have never heard FTR booed so much in my lifetime as I did last night on Collision, because that's how over MJF and Adam Cole as a team are with the AEW universe. FTR make their entrance and the crowd is booing them to high heaven. This was such a phenomenal match. I will say, because it was a lot shorter, it wasn't almost an hour. This was nowhere near Bullet Club Gold and FTR's tag team championship match, because that is the standard for tag team wrestling for Collision I'm using. But man, this was a fun match. MJF being MJF and like teasing and like getting on the nerves of FTR is fun. Adam Cole comes in and gets his stuff done. FTR continued to prove why they are a legitimate force to be reckoned with in the tag team world. Jeez Louise, man, this was a lot of fun. The finishing sequence was also some really good storytelling too. So FTR is setting up for a shatter machine on Adam Cole, but MJF pushes Adam Cole out of the way and takes the shatter machine and unfortunately gets rolled up by Dax for the pin. I had to rewatch it because it looked like that Dax was holding on to MJF's trunks as he was pinning him. So I'm wondering if there's any credence to maybe them getting a rematch sometime down the line. But FTR remain your AEW Tag Team Champions, and my God, that building was booing them to high heaven because they retained. So FTR leaves the ring, which just leaves MJF and Adam Cole in the ring. You know, we as wrestling fans come to expect it. Adam Cole gives MJF the title back, turns his back, and takes off like the wrappings around the fingers and the wrists. MJF is looking to deck Adam Cole from behind with the title, and Adam Cole playing into it, like breaking the fourth wall, puts his hands up and is like, just do what you have to, just do it. But we get swerved because MJF throws the title on the ground, and after some prompting from the crowd and cheering from them, they hug it out, and then they end up getting on the posts of the ring as Collision goes off the air. Friendship wins at the end, ladies and gentlemen, and with them not doing the standard, hey, I'm going to turn on my tag team partner because we didn't win the championship, I'm really interested to see where the next chapter of the story goes for Adam Cole and MJF. I would love to see them get a rematch against FTR, but to be able to win and be your new tag champs for a little bit. But FTR has Big Bill and Brian Cage in waiting in the wings since those two won the Battle Royal on Rampage this week to face FTR for the championships. I'm really interested to see where the next chapter for Better Than You Bebe goes. It was said that MJF would give Adam Cole a AEW championship match down the line because he deserves it. But who knows when that will be? Will it be at Wembley? Will it be at All Out in Chicago? Who's to say? But this is one of my favorite wrestling storylines in AEW right now, and in fact, most of the major brands right now. And it shows how organically, if you allow the performers to get over with the crowd, how invested the crowd and your TV watching audience will be in this storyline. And I just wish that all the storylines across the brands could be this entertaining and fun. Sometimes it doesn't need to be serious. You can have a little fun with it and play on the tropes. If it's done right and you allow the actors to perform, I'm taking a book from the professor now. I'm taking a lesson from the professor here. If you allow the actors to perform and you give them the space to kind of improvise and do what needs to be done, you can create some very authentic and organic magic. And that's what we found here with the Better Than You Bebe storyline. So that is going to conclude the breakdown of this week's Collision episode. I give this week's Collision an 8 out of 10. My only gripe is I do wish that we had more women's matches, but that's just a thing across all of the brands right now. But Collision is just such a refreshing take on a weekly television wrestling show. It feels so weird, and it feels like it's written and booked by different people than Dynamite and Rampage are. Obviously, the main event was a lot of fun. The ladder match was really solid. Bullet Club Gold continues to be so trolly. I love it. Samoa Joe being on television screen. I love the progression of Ricky versus CM Punk. Everything just feels so right, and the puzzle pieces are set in place for a good couple of weeks and maybe months if we want to use these same people in these storylines. As I said, the only critiques I have is I wish there was more women's stuff. And obviously, as I said earlier in the review, I hope that Miro's stint against QTV isn't going to take up too much time because, QTV is just not it for me. I love the people in it, but not necessarily the concept of it. But overall, like I said, 8 out of 10 for Collision this week. And that is going to conclude my Beat the Clock review for AEW Collision. If you like this long form review, make sure to check out our other long form reviews over here on YouTube. You could definitely check out our AEW Dynamite review where me and JVL review Dynamite, and JVL goes on the TK accountability quarter and goes off on the poor decisions made in regards to the women's division's booking for 20 minutes. You could check out our SmackDown review where the SmackDown squad of me, Professor, and Minnie tried to make our way through this weird episode of SmackDown. You can also check out our other views this week as I reviewed Raw, NXT, Impact. You can also check out me and JVL's review of Ring of Honor. We pretty much cover all the major brands of weekly television shows. If you want to stay up to date on what we're doing outside of the reviews, you can follow us all over the social medias on Instagram, Threads, Twitter, TikTok, where we post random content and you can stay up to date on when new reviews get released. I am super excited. You can check out the rest of the reviews and our news reports and everything here on the YouTube. And I'm super excited to announce that me and the Professor will have our NXT The Great American Bash pay-per-view review out on Monday. So I finally get somebody to join me on an NXT review and for a pay-per-view nonetheless. So you can look forward to that on Monday. But thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and tell your friends about everything that we do here at the Bi-Conics Wrestling YouTube channel. And as always, until the next episode of Collision, take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, adios and sayonara. Thanks for watching.